Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Productivity Boosters and Stress Reducers podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Heeb, and I can't thank you enough for listening in. Each episode, I will discuss a new tip or trick that will help you to live a productive and efficient life, professionally and personally. If you're ready to find your productivity rhythm, relieve stress, and meet your goals faster, then this is the podcast for you. This podcast is sponsored by Your Choice Concierge, created to make your life easier by providing flexible, hourly, personal, and professional assistance. Let us handle your busy tasks so you can focus on what's important. You can learn more about Your Choice Concierge by clicking the link in the description. In today's episode, I'm diving into a topic that can be deceptively simple but life-changing once mastered. That is the art of saying no without guilt. So I'm going to talk about why it is so hard to say no, how saying yes too often sabotages your productivity and your peace, and how to say no with confidence, clarity, and of course, kindness. So let's start with why this is such a big deal. We live in a culture that rewards busyness. So saying yes is often seen as being helpful, team-oriented, or generous. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals or your capacity, you're saying no to something else, often something that's actually more important. Now, before I dive deeper, it's important to discuss and for you to remember a few key points. First, time is finite. Every yes is a time commitment. Secondly, saying yes to everything means saying no to some priorities. That can be things like rest, strategic planning, deep work, or even time with loved ones. Lastly, guilt often makes fear, whether that's fear of judgment, fear of rejections, or fears of missed opportunities. Let's ask ourselves, what happens when we start saying no more often and without guilt? Are there benefits to saying no? Of course there are. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. For one, you're going to experience greater focus and achieve more. When you protect your time and energy for what truly matters, you'll make space for that deep work and higher value tasks. You're also going to find yourself less stressed, no more overcommitting or scrambling to keep up. You should also feel more in control and less reactive. When you're saying no more often, you should feel a greater sense of self-respect and confidence in yourself. You'll begin to trust your instincts and boundaries, and so will others. And lastly, you should find your relationship with others improving or find yourself forming new, healthier relationships. This may be surprising, but people respect you more when you're honest about your limits. You don't need to lie to say no. You can be honest. And when you do show up, you will show up as your best self when you're not running on empty. This will make a true difference in your life. So now let's flip the script for a moment. What happens if you don't learn how to say no? For starters, you will definitely experience burnout. Constant yesing leads to physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. Another side effect of saying yes all the time is actually resentment. Saying yes out of guilt or obligation often creates bitterness. You may also find yourself stuck in a rut or unable to make progress in your own life. When your calendar is full of everyone else's priorities, your priorities will get sidelined. In addition, you may also find that your decision making is impaired. Being overstretched leads to reactive thinking rather than intentional action. Okay, now that we've touched on the consequences of saying yes all of the time, let's talk about why it's so hard to say no. I know for me personally, prior to learning more about boundaries and learning how to say no, that saying no came with guilt. And guilt is a powerful emotion. When you feel this way, it definitely doesn't make saying no easy. But why do we feel guilty for simply protecting our time or honoring our limits? A lot of it has to do with cultural conditioning, especially for women. Most of us have been unknowingly conditioned to be accommodating and agreeable. We are turned into people pleasers that want to avoid conflict or disappointment at all costs. And that comes with a lot of pressure. It also comes with a fear of being perceived as selfish or rude or unhelpful. And no one likes feeling like that, right? But it's super important to reframe that feeling of guilt. Instead, think of it as you doing something new. So, you're setting a boundary you've never set before. That is something new. Just remember that growth can feel uncomfortable, and guilt is not the same as wrong. Two important things to remember. So, now let's get tactical and talk about some practical strategies for saying no. How do you actually say no without guilt and without burning bridges? First, start with gratitude or acknowledgement when responding to someone. For example, someone asked you to volunteer for a project that you're just not interested in. Your response can include, "Thank you so much for thinking of me, but I'm not available to help with that right now." Just simply throw in that gratitude in the beginning before saying no. Next, you can just make sure that you're clear and direct. So, an example that I can relate to is when a client wants to add more to my workload and it's outside of the original scope of work. My response is typically something like, "I'd be happy to take that on at an additional rate. Would you like me to send over a revised proposal?" Or I might say, "I'm not able to commit to that right now, if it's just something that I don't have the bandwidth for." And that's as far as I need to take it. You don't need to explain yourself or offer a more specific reason. A clear, kind, direct no is enough. Another strategy would be to offer an alternative if possible. So maybe saying, "I can't help, but I know someone who might be a good fit." Now, of course, that won't be appropriate for all situations, but it's good to keep in mind if other people could possibly replace you in a scenario. It can help with the feeling of guilt that may be associated with saying no. Now, sometimes it can be harder for us to say no to people in person versus an email or a text. So, if someone asks something of you in person and you feel pressured to say yes when you want to say no, you can actually delay your response. Simply say you need to check your calendar and you will get back to them or something along those lines. This will give you the opportunity for you to respond later via text or email, and it puts less pressure on you. Now, of course, this won't happen overnight, but when you're more confident in your ability to say no and set boundaries, You should start using I don't instead of I can't. So, for example, I don't take meetings before 10 a.m., and that is a real boundary for me. Just like any other skill, saying no gets easier with practice. So, let's talk about how to build your no muscle. Think of it like strengthening a muscle in your body. The more you use it, the stronger and more natural it becomes. If you've been saying yes automatically for years, I won't lie to you, it's going to feel real uncomfortable at first. But discomfort is just part of growth. It's important to start building this no muscle in a practical, manageable way. Start small. Don't begin with the biggest, scariest no, like turning down your boss's last minute request. Instead, practice in lower stakes situations. An example of this might be declining a store loyalty program you don't want to sign up for, or saying no to a social invitation when you need rest. You can even start by telling yourself no when you're committed or when you're tempted to overcommit. Each small success will make the next no easier. Another way to build that no muscle is to ask yourself reflective questions. This is where self awareness comes in. Before responding to a request, pause and check in with yourself using a few guiding questions. First, ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I say no? This will help you separate fear from reality. Often we imagine the worst case scenario, but will someone really stop liking you or will they simply ask someone else? Naming that fear reduces its power. Another reflective question to ask yourself is, what do I need to protect right now? This question should ground you in your priorities. Maybe it's your health, your family time, or an important project deadline. Whatever it is, recognizing what's at stake or what's important reminds you that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. You should also ask yourself, where have I said yes when I really meant no? Looking back shows you your patterns. Maybe you've overcommitted at work, or volunteered out of guilt, or agreed to plans that drain you. Reflecting on past missteps helps you to spot those red flags and determine if saying yes is really in your best interest. By asking these questions, you're retraining your brain to pause before giving an automatic yes. You move from reaction mode to intentional choice. Okay, so we've covered why saying no matters, the benefits of saying no, the costs of not saying no, and even some practical tools to strengthen that no muscle. So now let's zoom out for a moment. At its core, this isn't just about productivity hacks. It's about how you design your life. And that's what I want to leave you with in today's final thoughts. If you're burnt out, overwhelmed, or constantly behind, chances are you're not saying no enough. I want you to reframe what no means. Remember, no is not a rejection of that person, it's a boundary around your energy. By saying no, you're actually saying a bigger yes. Yes to your priorities. Yes to rest. Yes to showing up fully for the commitments you do accept. There is absolutely nothing wrong with saying no. That's all for this week's episode of Productivity Boosters and Stress Reducers. Be sure to check back soon for our next episode. I'll be discussing the effects of being overloaded and overwhelmed. More specifically, why you're not lazy, you're just overloaded. If you want to learn more about saying no without guilt, have feedback about this episode, or a specific topic you'd like to hear about in the future, please email me at info@yourchoice-concierge.com. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you also subscribe to the Your Choice Concierge YouTube channel, where you can find some examples of the tips and tricks I discuss on the show. Thanks again for listening. I'm Stephanie Heeb, and I hope you'll join me next time for more tips and tricks to live a productive and efficient life, professionally and personally. Have you considered starting your own podcast but haven't had the time? Check out Buzzsprout. They make launching and managing your podcast effortless. Trust me, if I can do it, anyone can. Clicking the Buzzsprout link in the description will let them know we sent you and get you a $20 Amazon gift card if you decide to sign up for a paid plan. Thanks again to our sponsor, Your Choice Concierge. Until next time, productive people.